All right, Mr. Sean. Who did we have on the podcast today? Please tell me why I eat these little gummy worms or gummy fruit snacks.
We had Lisa Stroud Westhafer, who is fascinating. And the reason I reached out to her and asked her to come on was because she's spent a lot of time agency side at like massive agencies with massive brands as her clients, right? So she worked at Propeller. She worked with Unilever. Who's to say? Probably their brand guidelines. But so she has all this experience with big budgets, with big brands, and now she started her own company, and so she's having the exact opposite experience of going from agency with big customers, big agencies to in-house for her own startup, and so I wanted to understand kind of what's transferable, how similar some of those lessons learned are, and how you can apply some lessons learned from working at the enterprise scale to the startup space.
And what do you feel like? Do you feel like I think that's a really, really good way of putting it. I think that the thing that surprised me so much is that there's a lot of it that seems like it is transferable, and then there's a lot of it that just seems like super difficult, right? Like enterprise, like the story that she told, and I won't give too much in there, but about the sort of like negative competitors putting in negative reviews, just kind of reminded me of I can't remember what time point it was, but it's like the gas stations across the street from each other, like each cutting their price by like 1 cent to like absolutely like slash the other guy down. It's like very like localized. Like, the person that's a competitor to her could be selling eyelash glue in like, I don't know, some other country. But it like becomes like a localized environment almost. Like you have like, it's almost like plankton going into Mr. Krabs's like restaurant and like trying to steal the Krabby Patty formula. It has it's just interesting, right? Like those are not things that a giant company has as a problem. Maybe a bot army, sure, but like that problem is at a much more massive scale.
Yeah, and the impact of it when you're a small brand is outsized too, right? Like, I'm sure that is probably happening to L'Oreal and stuff like that. But at the same time, there's gonna be so many reviews, and you're so much less dependent on any one channel or one thing that it just hurts less. So yeah, I was fascinated. That story was fascinating to me. Hearing some of the issues with retail, with Amazon, and the way she's thinking about them and other brands are thinking about them. I thought this was a really interesting podcast where we talked about a lot of things that I don't think we've talked about Amazon before on this podcast.
Yeah, I don't think we have either. Yeah, it's super interesting. You also say that was fascinating about everything, by the way. That's like your catchphrase on this pod. It's very funny. I'm gonna roast you a little bit. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fascinating how I mean, isn't that a good thing to be just curious about everything?
Sure. Yeah. Tell yourself whatever you need. All right, everyone. Enjoy the episode.
I'm Ibby Syed.
I'm Sean Collins.
And this is Numbers and Narratives.
All right, and we're here. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. And before we get started, do you mind introducing yourself? Giving the guests a little bit of a lowdown?
Yes, well, actually, that's a really fun question for me right now because I just recently retired from corporate America, from agency world in February, officially full-time. Thank you. Full-time entrepreneur again, my second time doing this in my life. So I'm excited to be here. I'm founder, we're calling it, my husband and I are calling it, I'm in my beauty brand founder era. So back to entrepreneur world, I am the founder of a lashes company, a beauty brand, we call it a little baby brand, but it's growing. So
excellent. And sort of give us a taste of what was sort of the path to the beauty brand, and what is the name of it?
True Beauty Lashes.
Perfect.
Well, that's a fun story. So about 5 years ago, my mom and I decided, it was actually right before the pandemic, to do a little hobby e-commerce business together. I had convinced my mom to basically be the fulfillment officer. So she was stuffing packages, and it was really just me being a marketing geek and really wanting to learn not only international supply chain, but having a background in branding my whole life and seeing people starting businesses online and thinking like, why can't I just do this? And more than anything, wanting to transfer it into my CX role and make sure that I understood everything about the way that people were buying online, marketing automation, being able to actually like walk the walk, and talk the talk. And so I just wanted to do it for fun. And so we started the business together. And because of my background working with Unilever and helping them with shopper marketing strategies and CX, I kind of accidentally, but intentionally and crazily got us into department stores within a year of us launching. And it's because I knew how to pitch retailers. I had been helping them launch personal care brands for years. And so the next thing I knew, a big department store chain in the Midwest, Von Maur, decided to take us. And so we were in 37 physical retail stores in 15 states within like a year and a half of us.
Von Maur, I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. Von
Thank-
Maur is like was like the place where like the people with money went.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's wild. Very cool. Very cool.
Very cool. Yeah. So that happened. And as you can imagine, my mom was like, yeah, I'm out. This is too much for me. That I just wanted to make little pretty packages and do something fun with you. So now this is a whole nother animal. And meanwhile, I still had my full-time job. So I had to basically stop everything that we were doing for direct-to-consumer marketing, which is kind of what we had started from the beginning, working with influencers and building our Instagram, doing things like that, and just kind of getting feedback from makeup artists, feedback from customers, learning about our brand and how people were perceiving it. I had to put pause on all of that to basically learn how to run a retail operations for department stores, which is an absolute beast. I didn't even know what a UPC code was or EDI, and how to connect with all the softwares and figure out like what the difference between a fulfillment center was and a warehouse. Didn't even know what any of that stuff was. So that was fun. Did that for a while. It ended up not being as lucrative or as profitable as we would have wanted it to be for the amount of effort that it was. So we decided to pivot back last year and go back into direct to consumer a little bit more but going to the Amazon side. So we had actually avoided Amazon when we first started because at the time in 2020, 2021, specialty retailers were really adverse from taking you if you were on Amazon because they wanted a curated selection. Like Von Maur wouldn't have ever taken us. They didn't want to have that competition. They didn't want to have, that, next day delivery. They wanted to be able to have products that were unique. And in the last 5 years, that has totally changed. Almost every beauty brand now has a channel strategy around Amazon. And it's really figuring out how to use it the right way, and what it's there for. So what I decided to do was to use it to launch a new product. So I had been working with a partner brand that is a glue company based out of Canada because we originally didn't have our own glue. And they sell an organic glue. And we saw over like 5 years, people were going crazy over this organic glue. And it really just like exposed to me this unmet market need of a non-toxic lash glue, and how important that type of a product would be, and that there were so many people out there that were allergic to the different kinds of ingredients that are in it. And so I did a lot of research and ended up working with my manufacturer and created a glue that only has 5 ingredients, and 4 of them are considered safe through EWG. Those are the science-backed ones, and then the 5th one is natural aloe vera. And we launched that on Amazon last year.
You caught my attention with the idea of like just, all these major brands treating Amazon just like another channel, which is logical. But so how do you kind of view that, like somewhere, I guess, in the spectrum of D2C, owning your own brick and mortar store, Amazon, and being in retail, kind of where do you think Amazon sort of falls, and how much is it most similar to selling in a retail brand like Von Maur versus selling on your own site, for example?
Well, what we've learned so far, and the reason why we decided to try the strategy, is that I think the best usage of Amazon, but this is coming from our experience, but I'm thinking that this is just the way that every big brand should be doing it anyway, is use it for exactly the way that we used it, which is launching a new SKU. Because you get immediate conversion, immediate feedback, you know immediately what the keywords are that are working for your PPC ads. You get all of that as fast as possible, plus you get all the reviews. So you get the social proof, you get all of it. And so as fast as we could, we got to 1,000+ people purchased in the last month at the top of our listing. So that right away, even if you only have so many reviews, people see that at least as social proof of people are buying this product, right? So I think that that's really kind of like the best way to use this, at least for beauty, but I would imagine that for any brand. And then from there, if I were to change what we did with Von Maur from the beginning, it would have been to make sure that we got more information out of them on who their actual demographic was in all the different stores. Because like you said, there's these people that have money that, go to Von Maur. They're not necessarily the same people who wear lashes, let alone magnetic lashes.
Right. And so what you're saying is like the best thing to do is you can choose to be a brick and mortar retailer, sell in stores, but online is the best way to test where to go and what channel partnerships to develop, right? Because if I'm let's say your use case, if you end up finding out online that the actual people that are buying this are between the ages of 18 and 24, and they're, they actually live in California and on the coast versus in the Midwest, then suddenly you're looking at more of like I'm making this up, but like,
yep, you're
whatever
right.
the like Claire's or something, as opposed to like a Von Maur. And I don't know if that's actually what it meant. That's actually how it ended up. But you end up really understanding who your persona is because it's really, really cheap to test. It's also absolutely wild to think about that because Sean and I talk a lot about like testing ads or testing like copy or testing imaging. Testing like a physical product is something that I've never actually thought that much about. But yeah, Amazon does, I guess, like make the most sense on that, right? Like yeah, wow.
Yeah, because you can start with like we literally sent in, I think our first batch was like 200 units, and by December we were sending them 7,500.
How does that work? Do you just like go to Amazon and say, hey, like I want to sell something here, and then they're like, yeah, sure, whatever?
Yeah, I mean you have to create a seller account, and then it's actually a little bit brutal getting your brand acknowledged in their registry. You have to have a registered trademark, or at least a pending registered trademark for your brand name. And then they analyze you from 17 different angles to make sure that your identity is verified. So it's basically, they want blood work. Like they are their own government. But once you get in there and you have your seller account set up and you start doing your listings, it's basically yours to lose. It's yours to break. It's yours to, use words that are on their restricted list that you're not allowed to use. So for instance, we can't say that our product is non-toxic, even though it is. Because in order to do that, they want 50 pages of document of testing, to show that. So you have to be really careful about how you market your products also, And there are some limitations to that because we can't say it's non-toxic, even though that was the entire point. So we have to say gentle formula, and that's the best way we can get as close as possible. So it's an interesting ride to be on Amazon.
I think compliance games are always, the most aggravating thing, but the only option is to kind of try and figure out like what can you get away with, because otherwise it's just so brutal. I wonder if you could get someone to like write a review that says, my favorite part is I found on their site they're non-toxic, and then like you can post that review somewhere on the thing. So like we've been called non-toxic by such brands as opposed to saying like, we're not making the claim, we're just pointing that someone else identified that we are.
The thing that I was going to actually ask is related. You've spent a lot of time in customer experience. How did you, and the sort of like this persona development thing is pretty fascinating. I'm on Amazon and I'm currently on page 9 of what I type in lashes.
Mm-hmm.
How do you sort of compete in such a competitive market, right? Like, how do you find the people that, like, you can't use words like non-toxic, if you have to like figure out exactly like what the copy looks like? How did you figure that out? Like, how do you utilize what you've learned from the CX side and funnel it back sort of like into marketing?
Okay, well, the first thing is we wouldn't be under lashes because we're not targeting that keyword because we don't have any of our lashes on Amazon. It's only the glue because that's what we launched last year.
Got it. Can you tell that I don't know anything?
Okay, yeah, but I love this. So since you've never searched us before, you won't be in Amazon's remarketing funnel. So would love if you type in lash glue for sensitive eyes and see where we show up, because it should be on page 1. If not, then something's broken.
What's great about that is I every morning remind Ibby about his sensitive eyes, and so we're on the right track for your lash extensions.
Okay, wait. So okay. Let's see results. There's a sponsored one. We'll ignore all the sponsored guys. We've got Kiss Clear Strip Lash Adhesive, Gentle Formula Lash Glue, Duo Brush On Lash Glue, Media. Oh, you know what it might be? My fiance uses my Amazon account, and it actually says purchased March of 2021. I don't know who purchased this, but I actually might be in your
in the remarketing.
In your remarketing because of Sean. Do you know if you are? You want to try?
I can be quite positive I am not. So what is it? Lash glue for sensitive eyes?
Yeah.
Let's see. This is fun. We'll do this live.
I
wish we could share a screen.
I know. Amazon's autocomplete also sucks. All right. So we've got.
Do you have Gentle Formula Lash Glue or True Beauty Lashes Lash Glue? Should be on the front
got a lot
page.
of ads. Gentle Formula Lash Glue, 24-hour hold, cluster strip false lash.
Yep.
1K plus bought in the past month, 117 reviews.
Yeah, and oh my gosh, you guys, and this is probably very on topic for this type of a podcast. The world of reviews and competitor attacks on Amazon is wild.
Ooh, say more.
Yeah, it tells everything.
It's also even with the remarketing, it's number 4 on mine. I just didn't scroll down.
Yeah,
I was being dumb.
Yeah, so it's absolutely blatant. If you go down and you read the reviews, the 1-star reviews, at least half of them are competitors making things up. And they're basically attacking your listing to get you under 4.0 stars as fast as they can, because you're digging into their market, like that you're taking market share. And it's very common for it to happen right when you launch because, 15, 20, negative reviews on only 117 total is a huge weight, right? Like, against it. So it's a very interesting experience to go through all of them, because people will say things like, I got a chemical burn, which it's absolutely impossible because of the ingredients that we have in the glue. And then that same person that says I got a chemical burn literally has a picture of herself throwing up peace signs, smiling. Like if somebody just got a chemical burn, why would they be doing that?
What's wild there, because I think, most people are so like naively trusting and generally good that like they don't assume
Right.
bad things could happen, right? And so like even when you first started saying that, I was like, oh well, that must be why Amazon has the verified buyer check mark that goes on there. But if I was an aggressive business person, would I be okay spending $36 to buy your product 3 times to be able to have verified buyer reviews and trash you?
Yeah.
Like, and then also each person could mark, I found this review helpful, to make that review go further up in the ranking. And like,
It's 100%
very
happening.
quickly it can become
Yep.
pretty
Yeah.
bleak.
Yeah. So what do you do there? How do you fix that?
Uh, well, first of all, pray about it a lot because I'm a Christian and I really believe that where I am is where I'm supposed to be. And, my job is to act in integrity and to not do the same thing back. And because I could go to all their listings and, hurt them as well. And so, praying a lot about protection and just making sure that we're really listening to reviews. And if there is something wrong with the product or something that we're not positioning correctly. So, for instance, the glue is tackier, like it's stickier than normal glue because of the aloe vera that's naturally in it. And so some of the responses that we've gotten are people saying it's so sticky. It feels like it never actually dries or whatever. That was actually great feedback for us. And so we're taking that and we're figuring out how to talk about that better in our listing and talk about why that's a good trade-off for the chemicals. So like get over that part and be more excited about the fact, that this is a non-toxic glue. So we're using it as best as we can with the good information, and with the bad competitor ones, Amazon really doesn't have a way for you to combat them. You can say report it, but they won't let you give any context and they won't let you actually change things. So the best that we can do is just, hope for the best. But it is really, really wild that we have over 1,000. It's about 1,300 units a month that we're selling right now. We did 1,500 last month. And out of all those people, the feedback that we're getting, positive feedback, is that we have return customers and only a 2% return rate, even with all these competitors trying to hurt us. But that's all we can do is just hope Amazon cares too.
And so you're using FBA, right? Like Fulfilled by Amazon. They're doing all of your logistics and shipping, right? And so how much flexibility do you have when you do FBA to have like an insert in there that says like, please leave us a review. It means so much. And like try and like drive Amazon reviews from, if you're doing 1,000 a month, I guess there's some way you can incentivize or communicate, because obviously the downside of selling through Amazon as opposed to through your own like Shopify store or something is that you aren't getting the email addresses, you're not getting the subscribers to kind of have those ongoing retention moments and building that kind of brand connection, right? And so I guess like what are the alternatives when you do sell through, whether it's an Amazon or through a retail store like a Von Maur, like how can you try and build that long-term relationship?
Yeah, and that's a really good question. And there's a lot of strategies to do that. And putting the insert in that offers some sort of like a gift or a reward or something like that, and someone scans a QR code and they go to a landing page and basically says, leave us a review, we'll give you $10 off from our store, or whatever. And there's a lot of people that do that. Technically, it's against Amazon's terms of service because you're not supposed to ask or like offer incentives for reviews. So you're kind of walking a little bit of a line if you put those inserts in. Also, our packaging was not set up that way. So our packaging is a little tube that's about this big, and it's not in a bag with an insert, right? And it doesn't have like a back card on it where we could print something on there. So we're going to have to rethink all of our packaging in order to get that in there, but it is on our radar to see like what we can do to try to get that first party data and to, encourage more reviews.
I'm curious, you talked earlier, you mentioned on the retail side, wishing you would have done things a little bit different and tried to get more buyer data. Like what I assume the relationship when you're selling through retail brands changes quite a bit, right? Like when you were working with Unilever, I assume they have an amount of leverage with their retailers to say like, these are my requirements for us to sell through you as opposed to your competitor. Like we need to see this kind of data. We need this kind of placements. When it's your startup beauty brand or you're a small food and bev brand or whatever it is, and you don't have that leverage, and getting into these retail stores is transformative for you to reach new audiences and have that kind of credibility bump. What sort of data do you kind of get access to? What are sort of the perks and benefits in ways of working with them or lessons you would learn to pass on to anyone who's listening who's like, hey, I want to get into Target or I want to get into Von Maur or whatever?
Yeah, I think it's kind of thinking about it the other way around where I knew what our personas were. So we have lash styles that are for basically all eye shapes and all ages. So we've got very dramatic, longer ones that basically younger women can get away with, wear to nightclubs, wear to parties, even, wear during the day. And then the older that you get, your eye shapes change. And you can't wear the same lashes, otherwise you start to look a little clowny. And it's just, just the natural process of beauty evolution. And so we have lashes that are for, all different eye shapes. And I came to Von Maur with different personas. I said, here is one shopper who is this age range looking for something that they can wear to the office, that kind of thing. We have, these styles that are for this. And so you bring to the retailer, here's who I know about, like what I know about my audience and who buys. And then you let them basically say that's right for us. And then that's the most that you can expect, from, especially if they are, family owned, family, founded business, Midwest roots. They don't give up a lot of their personal information, or their company information, to say certain things. So it's not as publicly known. And when I was on Unilever, you'd be surprised. Unilever, you would think that going to a retailer and saying, you'd be lucky to have my stuff, would be kind of like the play. We still had to pitch them, and still had, because there's only so much shelf space. And so it was all about what did we think the velocity was going to be of the product coming off shelf. So, and then mixing that with what their profit margin was going to be and showing them that we had a full integrated marketing plan to drive traffic into their stores in order to buy it. And then obviously people buy other things when they're in the store. And so they want that traffic. So when you're giving a holistic, experience that you're having the shoppers, go through with your brand, from driving awareness online and then driving awareness at where they're sold in physical locations, and how to go into that retailer, and then incentives once they get there to not get distracted and still buy your brand when they're at shelf. So everything from in-store, displays, all the things. So that's really what you need to do with retailers, is say, here is my audience. Here's what I know about you as a retailer. I already did competitive research to see that there is a white space on your shelf for my product. This is why I think that it would be, great for it to be in the store. And then here is my end-to-end marketing plan to drive people into your store and generate awareness about our brand. And that's how you pitch a retailer.
Do you ever Do you ever look at we were talking about reviews in terms of like, the negativity aspect of them and, how they promote, like sort of using them in marketing, but do you also use them to like ever understand your persona? Because I was like clicking through the reviews of the eyelashes and there's like stuff that jumps out, right? Like, and I don't know, I have never bought like a competitor of yours. I've never bought eyelash glue, but the stuff that comes out is like there's like so many people in here that are like, hey, like I wear contacts and like I have sensitive eyes because of dermatitis or some other, I don't know, there's probably a million reasons why you could have sensitive eyes, but something that like pops out to me is like, oh wow, like, people that have contacts, my fiance wears them and she always gets like, eye irritation, and having stuff that isn't going to add to that is just like one other kind of like plus point for a specific product, and that like you can actually kind of like find competitive edge, it seems. And I was wondering if that ever kind of leads into when you go to those retailers or when you're trying to like sell the product.
Yeah, for sure. And the listing title we just actually recently updated because it's an interesting thing. So when we first launched the product, we actually said for sensitive eyes, because that is why it was designed. And we don't actually have the paperwork of dermatologist tested, so we can't say that it's hypoallergenic. So because we don't have the medical claim records for it. And I asked my supplier if they did, and they didn't really have anything that was official, but it was developed to be hypoallergenic. So we said for sensitive eyes, we never used the word hypoallergenic just to make sure we were staying away from medical claims. But we said for sensitive eyes. And what we experienced was two things. Number one, that's exactly what the competitors were using against us. So if you look at some of like the negative reviews, they're like specifically making it dramatic that I have sensitive eyes and this was terrible for me, so they were using that against us. Also, what we didn't think would happen, but then we learned later, is that there's a difference between people who have sensitive eyes because they wear contacts or, whatever, and then people who are basically allergic to life, right? Like they're allergic to everything. And somehow they think that they're just on a mission to find products that are going to solve all their problems. And when they don't, they get mad and they take it out on you. Where the reality is they're allergic to, any sort of acrylic that's in, in makeup. That's an allergy, right? That's not sensitive eyes. It's very different. And we have never said this is for allergies. We've never said this is hypoallergenic. So kind of like understanding that like there's an audience that's giving you feedback that's a little bit dramatic and not really what you're going for, and then having to dial back what you're saying and change the wording. So you'll see now we're saying gentle formula because it has a premium price. So we have to find a way in that listing, in that scroll, that when there's the kisses or the duos or, any of the other competitors that are there that have had their listings for, 5-10 years, and they've got 50,000 reviews and it only costs $5. How do we, as a $12, glue, say that it actually is a premium product and worth the price difference, but we have way less reviews. And so what do you say in that listing title to get someone to click? So that's the thinking that we do around all of that.
That's really interesting. Yeah, it's tough. And I think that's one of the interesting nuances of Amazon in particular, right? Because like when you look at, back when I was agency side, we worked with a lot of like kind of premium and luxury brands. And pretty consistently, one of the things that stood out to me was those sites almost never have reviews, right? Like, and I thought that was crazy. You would think that like, hey, like the proof is in the pudding that we are just so much better. And they're like, we don't need the reviews. We are high end. People will get that. Like no reviews for us. Mm-hmm. But if you're selling on Amazon, you don't have the choice to say like, hey, I'm a premium brand selling on Amazon, so disable reviews for my product.
Right.
And so it does become when you start to lose the creative control you would have on your own website or in your own brick and mortar, you lose the kind of the design and feel of to portray or premium. You lose the ability to say like, nope, we don't do reviews. You lose a lot of those touch points that make it the whole buying experience and the whole brand experience feel luxurious or premium because you're shopping at the same place. You're buying your toilet paper and whatever else you're buying on Amazon that day. It does. Yeah, that feels like a really interesting challenge. I hadn't really thought about of how do you retain a premium brand and feel in a place you can't control almost anything.
Yep. And the only thing you have to market it when someone's scrolling through that first page of Amazon is the image that you have, which you're completely restricted on certain things you can have. It has to be a white background. We're barely getting, thank you, Jesus, but like, I don't even know how we're getting away with having a lash and the glue drop and our packaging all in there, but someone somewhere decided to approve it. And so we're not changing that.
That's actually super interesting.
Yeah. Because normally you're not
'cause
supposed to.
I was gonna ask, right? Like, they all look kind of like all of the images look kind of similar. So my thought was like, oh, could you like double the price by, how, I don't know. We talked about what's that olive oil company you really like, Sean? The one that you are really into. Okay, the reason that Graza sticks out on the shelf is it's just kind of like a hotter looking bottle than all the other ones on the shelf, and like, I don't know, like I haven't actually used it because I'm cheap and I buy things for $5 instead of 20. But like, if I was going to buy this for someone, let's say that like, someone in my life was like, hey, could you buy me eyelash glue? I don't know why they would, but I would go on, and if yours was $20, if one was like $20 instead of 12, and it like looked like it had a nice packaging, I'd be like, oh, that one like is maybe premium. You can't make the packaging nicer and then stick it on the Amazon image. Like there's like a specific one you have to do for every type of product you sell. Like all of the lashes have to have like roughly the same like marketing image.
You can put the packaging on there. So so that if you look at our listing, it's the packaging there. And honestly, we have a well-designed package, and it's got pink, foiling on it. It looks premium. So I think that does help us. And that just is from my marketing background. And, I actually, that brings me to something else that I thought you were asking me about originally, Sean, like, being like a one-person show and like, how do you get all of that done? There are so many things that I've done to like find 3D mock-up templates online using Photoshop and then just like making stuff. And so like the packaging, I just designed by myself using like some like 3D mock-up thing. And so I've never actually done any product photography for this product. That is just the 3D mock-up thing that I did like as the original design, and then gave it to my manufacturer, and he just like made the box out of it. So it's an interesting thing that we've never even done any photography.
That's amazing. After this, can you send me the link to whatever tool or template you used for that? That's so cool.
There's an entire website. I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but I'll send you the link, and it has 3D mock-up templates for basically any type of packaging that you could ever want. And you just bring it into Photoshop, and then it's very easy, drag and drop into the layers.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yes, I think that's that's a good reminder, right? Like when you are in a small team or you lose the resources of a big company, you just have to get so creative and scrappy and figure out like 80% starts to be like good enough, and then you have to figure out the things that need to be 90 to 95%.
Yep.
And like that's where your time goes, and everything else you're like, hey, either we're not doing this at all, or we're going to say like good enough is good enough because there's just too much to do.
Yep.
That's really cool, because you're right, the packaging looks great. That imagery looks great. I would never have guessed.
Right. The power of technology, right? And what AI can do. It's fascinating because now even like ChatGPT can do 3D renderings for you the other way around. So if I didn't have that 3D mock-up and all I had was the packaging and I just took a picture of it sitting on a table, it'll create the 3D render that, that I just did.
Have you used ChatGPT's new image generator thing at all? I downloaded here. This is gonna be super interesting. I don't know if this is gonna work. Can you go to the chat and click on this link?
Oh my gosh.
So people like I haven't tried this myself. But saw like a bunch of posts on LinkedIn about people just like changing their look or adding soft lighting or whatever. It's the exact same product, but it's like I don't think it copied yours exactly right. Like you have to give it a better prompt. But I was wondering if you tried things like that yet. I don't do marketing, so I haven't done it. But for those that are on the listener side, like I literally just stuck the Amazon photo in and said, "Hey, make an ad for this," and it just changed it a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty new. Those the image part of ChatGPT is of what, like last weekend or like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's like 2 weeks old.
Yeah. So no, but you'll be fascinated by this since you're a data scientist, AI guy. We have where what we're doing with AI right now is more going into using it for the facial recognition part. So ChatGPT is good for, coming up with things like, content calendars for social or helping to rewrite our Amazon listing and like make sure that it's utilizing all of the right keywords that we want to in it. And that kind of stuff. But image generation, we haven't touched in that yet. I just don't think it's good enough. But from an AI perspective, where I think is, the most fascinating part of what's happening in beauty is, facial recognition, being able to match people with like the right shades and, scanning their skin and scanning like their face and understanding that stuff. So I don't want to let too much out of the bag because we've got things that are in process right now that hopefully in the development of them, we're actually going to be able to submit some patents for. So it's going to be really cool. And I think that that's kind of like a fun evolution of my CX background and where I've been able to work on the agency side with ginormous budgets, working in healthcare and working on Unilever and all of that to being scrappy and literally completely bootstrap myself and like have never had an investor in either of the companies that I've ran and be able to figure out how to to do both things. But I think that, when I first started the lash company, I took everything that I had learned from the experience of personal care in massive brands. And I'm very proud to say that at the time, none of the lash brands that were the major competitors to me, so, Lily Lashes or House of Lashes or Glamnetic or, Velour, any of those, none of them had a lash finder quiz yet. And so I was like the first lash company to like break down how to describe what people want in a lash and then give them personalized recommendations. And then literally within like a year, they had all copied me. They were using the exact same quiz platform that I was using, all of that. But, flattery is, what is that? Copying you is the biggest form of flattery.
Yeah, imitation.
Yeah,
Imitation is the best. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I'm really utilizing like the next generation of that right now and hoping to get ahead with a few new CX experiences that are all AI driven on our website. And using that as, our new unique selling proposition this year. Where it's really all about, lashes are personal. You need to wear the right ones for your eye shape and for you. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad experience. So let's change that.
I love all that. I also, we're coming up on time, and I think that's the perfect spot to kind of wrap up. I think we will clearly need to have you come hang out with us again in like 6 months or something, so we can hear how all these new AI tools have performed. And then you can actually go into more depth about exactly what they are. And hopefully in that time, we will figure out how we can do screen sharing, because I think that this episode would have been about 10x. For everyone listening or watching, the three of us have been sharing screenshots and websites and stuff this entire time. And you are the ones missing out. And so we need to figure out how to get that on the podcast itself. All right, before we call it, where can people find more about your lashes and your company? Where can they find more about you and get in touch with you? Anything else you want to kind of tell the folks?
Yeah, well, you can get in touch with me on LinkedIn. I got married last year, so it's under Lisa Stroud, in parentheses, Westhafer. So happy to talk to anyone about and answer any questions. I mean, this is the world that we're in, is helping each other as entrepreneurs, and as CX people, and this is fun. This is really fun stuff. And I'm a marketing geek. I love all of it. So you can get in touch with me there. And then our website is truebeautylashes.com. It's that simple. So you can keep your eye out for some really cool experiences that are in process right now, getting ready to launch.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We'll put all those links in the show notes. And it's been such a great time chatting with you, Lisa.
Yes, this is great. Thank you so much for having me.